Italy has had a free and fair election, and the result is a big win for the right-wing or conservative party. And it's actually a coalition party. But the leading member of that coalition is a group called Friends of the Fraternal Order of Italy, or Friends of Italy, and Fraternal Brothers of Italy. And its leader is Giorgia Meloni, who will become the next Italian prime minister. Now, there might have been some leftists in this country. I mean, they were warning against this result, and they might have been hoping that just as here in 2020, you'd get like late-term results that would pivot away from Meloni and give the election to the left. But unfortunately for these leftists here in America, Italy has voter ID. And also the only mules that you find in Italy are four-legged ones. They eat grass. So this was an honest election. And now the left is dismayed at the outcome. And there's also a lot of screaming about the outcome at the EU. Why? Because at the European Union, they can see that this is a trend that is beginning to sweep across Europe. In the beginning, the trend was only in Eastern Europe, and you may say at the periphery of Europe. So Hungary, for example, pivoted in a right-wing direction, Viktor Orban. Latvia, Poland, Lithuania, Czech Republic, Austria, Slovakia. And so the EU said, well, the mainstream countries in Europe aren't going that way. France is okay, even though we've got Le Pen. Germany is okay. England is okay. And Italy is okay, and Spain is okay. But now Italy, one of the countries, in fact, sometimes described as the beating heart of Europe, Italy has decided to also pivot sharply to the right. And I found it interesting that Ursula von der Leyen of the EU was issuing threats before the Italian election. If the Italian election goes the wrong way, in effect, she was saying, if the right-wingers come to power, we have some tools to apply pressure and sanctions. I think the Italian people were extremely annoyed that this unelected bureaucrat would try to lecture the Italians. And you know, here in America, I've seen a lot of far right, she's extreme. This is Giorgia Meloni, is extreme. And I'm thinking to myself, extreme? Wait a minute. The Italians have voted for a new prime minister. If she's extreme, does that mean that the Italians are extreme? I mean, most of us have. I've been to Italy probably 20 times, and the Italians are famously easygoing. They're live and let live. Let's enjoy life together. They're moderate people, happy-go-lucky, tolerant people. So the idea that they're somehow extreme and they're now, they voted for some extremist is just on the face of it ludicrous. The Italian phrase, I think I mentioned this yesterday or the day before, centrodestra, center-right. The Italians decided this time to go center-right. And Giorgia Meloni, the reason she's controversial in the West and in America, listen to this. Yes to natural families, no to the LGBT lobby. Yes to sexual identity, no to gender ideology. Yes to the culture of life, no to the abyss of death. No to the violence of Islam. Yes to safer borders. No to mass immigration. Yes to work for our people. I was quoting this to Debbie and showing her a clip. It's actually, it's just interesting to listen to this in the Italian. And Debbie goes, well, that's the Trump agenda. And it sure is. Interestingly, Giorgia Meloni is not a kind of libertarian free market capitalist. In fact, she attacks not only big government, but to some degree even big business. She goes that big government and big business have a kind of common interest in erasing the particularities of our given identities. So the fact that we are not just, as she puts it, numbers. We're not just interchangeable numbers or consumers, but rather we are members of a family. We have a family last name, and we are embedded in communities, and we have religious faith, and we have affiliations to not only our state but also our country. So these these loyalties to family, to faith, to country. She goes, get in the way of big business, which wants to see everybody merely as a consumer, and big government, which wants to see everybody pretty much as a pawn that it can manipulate to its benefit. And at the end of her speech, Giorgia Meloni goes, she quotes G.K. Chesterton. And again, G.K. Chesterton, the famous Catholic intellectual, somebody who could hardly be described as a fascist. In fact, he was vehemently anti-fascist. And so her quotation from Chesterton, very telling, fires will be kindled to testify that 2 and 2 make 4. Swords will be drawn to prove that leaves are green in summer. What she's getting at is that today we are in the surreal position, I think we all feel this, of having to defend reality itself. Reality itself has become contested. You look like a woman, but no, I'm not a woman. I don't see myself as a woman. I see myself as a toad. And so this is an argument we seriously have to have with people. They identify with members of other genders or perhaps even other species. And basically, Giorgia Meloni says, my candidacy is here. I'm here to tell you enough. Enough of this nonsense. So she's running as a cultural conservative. And in doing so, she is transforming the landscape of Italy and perhaps in a sense, all of Europe.